Hey, we're back. And we're back.
Eh,
Hey! A few little tech issues tonight, but that's what it is when you're live. Right, guys? So I got to read this. Mike says I should know this by now, but I'm reading it anyway. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Sunday night offering of Astronomy Edutainment, the Sunday Night Astronomy Show. Hey!
Yay!
My name is Chris Kerwin. I'm the creator of the social media channel Astronomy by the Bay.
Oh, you just went blank. That's that a blank sheet of paper?
It is.
I just uh, I'm also an amateur astronomer and a member of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada.
Yay!
My two co-hosts for this evening, Mr. Paul Owen from the Moonshadow Observatory in beautiful Hampton. Paul, good evening.
Good evening.
Hey! And Mr. Mike Powell from the PFO Observatory here in St. John. Hey, Mike. Yay!
Yay!
Welcome all of you tonight from YouTube and Facebook land, and for all those who are joining us from the Rogers TV network. Thank you for your support. All right. On tonight's episode of the Sunday Night Astronomy Show, now rising just before midnight last evening, our moon presented another wonderful view. And no matter how many times we stare at its beauty, it continually offers us a unique perspective on our place in the universe. It's our constant celestial companion. It controls our tides. Walked on its surface. Yes, we have walked on its surface. And it continues to be inspiring to our imagination and lets us know that all is as it should be. Tonight, we're going to take another close look at what it does reveal to us when we choose to look up. We'll discuss how to explore it with just binoculars, how its motions affect our planet, and how to best capture its beauty. So that's our talk for tonight. Also tonight, Mike will have another fine vinyl bud target to enjoy. Paul will offer up another interesting Rosanna's fun fact. I'm going to talk a little bit about the expected planetary alignment coming up in the first week of June, and the expected planetary alignment, I'll say. And I'll have all of your wonderful photo submissions to share as well. So let's get started then tonight with a discussion around our special celestial neighbor. How's that? How'd that good? Okay.
La Lune. Yeah.
There. Okay.
Laloon.
The Lune. So I got a little bit of a presentation.
La Lune.
The Lune.
Mike tried his loon call, but
Nothing came out.
oh,
Not Loon, it's Lune.
he wasn't loony enough.
Looney Tunes.
Okay. A little bit of, let's see what we got. Excuse me. Share screen. Ooh, this one. There. Okay. So first of all, a few facts about our moon. It is Earth's only natural satellite. It is the fifth largest moon in the solar system and the largest in relation to the planet that it orbits. These are some little fun facts that you can share when you're looking at the moon with some friends. It's also the second densest moon in the solar system next to Jupiter's moon Io. It's simply called the moon because people didn't know there were other moons until Galileo spotted 4 moons orbiting Jupiter back in 1610. So then we had to start naming them because we couldn't say moon 1, moon 2. Now, the moon was likely formed about 4.2 billion years ago after a Mars-sized body collided with Earth. It almost destroyed us, but it threw material up into space, and eventually that material coalesced to form our moon. The moon is actually slowly moving away from us at the rate of about 4 centimeters per year. And a little bit more about the moon. With a radius of about 1,740 kilometers, the moon is less than a third the width of Earth. Actually, you could fit the moon across Canada, basically. The moon is an average of about 384,400 kilometers away. Now, that means it could fit about 30 Earth-sized planets between Earth and the moon. Earth's moon does have a core, a mantle, and a crust. The solid iron-rich inner core is surrounded by a liquid iron shell. A partially molten layer surrounds the iron core. Now, the mantle extends from the top of the partially molten layer to the bottom of the moon's crust. And the crust has a thickness of about 70 kilometers on the moon's near side and about 150 kilometers on the far side. That's a little bit unusual. It is made of oxygen, silicon, magnesium, iron, calcium, aluminum, and with small amounts of titanium, uranium, thorium, potassium, and hydrogen. And the temperature of the moon reaches about 127 degrees Celsius when it's in full sun, but in darkness, the temperature can plummet down to about minus 173 degrees.
Brr.
Brr, yeah. Hey, a little bit of the moon phases. So why do we see phases of the moon? We picture sunlight coming in from this side now. So here's the whole cycle of the moon for a month. We're going to call it synodic or sidereal cycle. So we can see here the view from Earth that you would get if you were standing on that point looking back at the moon. And this is a great one for kids when I'm at classroom talks. I do present this one quite often because a lot of kids don't understand why the phases of the moon happen the way they do. So here we are up the first quarter, and we're going to spin around to full moon. So it's a nice little graphic from NASA that I found out there.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, kind of helps explain things for people. All right, and from there, so these are the times of the moon phases. So people say, well, I see the moon up in the daytime sky sometimes. Well, yes, you do, because the moon rises about an hour to an hour and a half later each day. So typically, our new moon is up at around sunrise. Its setting time is around sunset, and it crosses the meridian around noon. So we can't see the moon when it's new. The only time we could see the moon in that case was when we saw just recently, like the total solar eclipse, when it completely blocked out the disk of the sun. And then we have a waxing crescent moon. So waxing means the moon is getting larger in our sky, but it's still a crescent. It's not quite to a half moon. People call it half moon, but it's a quarter of the way through the cycle, so we call it first quarter. So waxing crescent moon rises around 9 a.m. It sets about 9 p.m. and it crosses the meridian or the north-south line, I'll say around 3 p.m. Then the first quarter moon rises around noon and sets at midnight, and it crosses the meridian at 6 p.m. Waxing gibbous moon is larger than a quarter moon or larger than one half, but not quite full. So waxing gibbous moon rises at 3 p.m., sets at 3 a.m. You can see how the times are changing now, the setting time, and meridian crossing around 9 p.m. Full moon rises at sunset, and its set time is usually at sunrise or pretty close to sunrise, and it crosses the north-south line around midnight. A waning gibbous moon, we go back the other way now. The moon is waning, so it's getting smaller in our sky. So that's a waning gibbous moon, not quite third quarter yet. It rises around 9 p.m., sets at 9 a.m., and meridian time is around 3 a.m. The third quarter moon rises about midnight and sets at noon. So there you are, your moon's in the daytime sky. And it's crossing time of the meridian around 6 a.m. And then the waning crescent moon, which rises around 3 a.m. and sets at 3 p.m., and it crosses the meridian around 9 a.m. So there's the different times the moon phases. Now, the lunar month, though, the synodic month, is the time it takes to complete a full lunar cycle relative to the sun from new moon to new moon, or from full moon to full moon. That's about 29 and a half days, making it slightly longer than what we call a sidereal month. So the time it takes for the moon to complete this 360 degrees around the Earth, complete orbit around the Earth relative to the background stars. This sidereal month is about 27.3 days long. Now, the difference is because as the moon orbits the Earth, so too does the Earth orbit the sun. And the lunar cycle always has to do some catching up and travel a bit more than 360 degrees to get back to the phase it started at. So that's the difference between the synodic month and a sidereal month. Now, the moon is rotating at the same rate that it revolves around the Earth, called the synchronous rotation. So the same hemisphere faces the Earth all the time. You can see on the left-hand side would be a view that if the moon didn't rotate at all, we would see the complete surface of the moon within a month. But actually, the view is what we really see is the one on the right-hand side. So that's the comparison. So it's in synchronous rotation, we call it. And the moon orbits the Earth. It orbits the Earth usually in an elliptical path, but it's also either up to 5 degrees above the plane of the Earth-Sun system, or it's 5 degrees below. And here we can see what I mean by that. So this is why we don't have a eclipse every month. The moon has to pass by these things we call nodes, and If it sits in the node and it's lined up completely with the sun at the same time, and it's actually the right distance away from the sun, then we get a total solar eclipse. If the moon is too far away to cover the complete disk of the sun, but it's lined up with the Earth, Sun, Moon alignment there, then we get what we call an annular eclipse, where the moon isn't large enough to cover the complete disk of the sun. So this is why we don't have an eclipse every month. This all has to happen at the right time. We have to be lined up completely with the sun, Earth, and moon at the same time, and the moon has to be the right distance away for it to cast its shadow over a particular part of our planet. So that's a solar eclipse. Now, lunar eclipses happen when the moon passes behind us and cast our shadow that we cast out into space. The moon passes through that. So sometimes we'll get a partial lunar eclipse, and when the moon is above or below the shadow that we cast out into space, or we'll get a total lunar eclipse like we're going to have next March, on March the 14th, when the moon will actually pass directly right through our shadow. The complete disk of the moon will pass through our shadow that we cast into space to give that nice blood red moon that we get. So next year we have, on the March 14th, we have a total lunar eclipse on that date. And then 2 weeks later, on the March 29th, I guess, we have a partial solar eclipse that's going to happen at sunrise. We'll be talking a whole lot about that a little bit later on. Now, a little bit about supermoons, because you hear that term a lot, and we heard the term about what we call the moon illusion as well. Well, what is a supermoon? Well, a supermoon occurs when the moon's orbit is closest to Earth at the same time that the moon is full. Now, the term supermoon was coined in 1979 and is often used to describe what astronomers would call a perigean full moon. So the moon is either at perigee or apogee. Perigee is when it's at its closest to us. Apogee is when it's at its farthest away. A full moon occurring near or at the time when the moon is at its closest point in its orbit around the Earth. Now, supermoon can appear up to was 14% brighter and 8% larger than a normal moon. Now, for me, looking at the moon 1 month to the next month, I couldn't tell you if it was a supermoon last month or next month, or because I don't remember how large that moon appeared at the horizon. It's still going to appear large at the horizon because of the moon illusion. So 14%, 8% bigger. I don't know if you would see that much of a difference. There's the moon at perigee and apogee. And at its closest point, the moon can appear up to 14% bigger and 30% brighter than the faintest moon of the year, which occurs when it's farthest from Earth in its orbit. Even though 14% doesn't make a big difference in detectable size, a full supermoon is a bit brighter than other moons throughout the year. We also get that thing called the moon illusion, when an object is near the horizon and it appears much larger than normal. And that's because our brains are playing a trick on us. When we see something near the horizon, off in a distance, we have buildings or mountains nearby, and they'll make the moon appear much larger. All you have to do really is make a fist and punch a small hole through the center of your fist, and then look at the moon in that way, and you'll find that the moon looks a lot smaller. And we know too that when the moon gets higher in the sky, there's nothing for our brains to compare it against. So it's just in the big open sky, so the moon looks smaller, but it's the same distance away, roughly the same distance away as it was at the horizon. So supermoons of 2024. When are the supermoons of 2024? Well, we have the first ones. They run in a row. They run in series like this as well. So Monday, August the 19th is our first supermoon. And then we have one on Wednesday, September the 18th. A third one on Thursday, October the 17th. And the fourth one is on Friday, November 15th. So we have 4 supermoons in a row coming up this fall. So something to look forward to this fall. And that's about what I have to say about the moon. This is from LRO, a spacecraft that's been orbiting the moon now over 14 years now, and it's been taking high definition photos of the moon in preparation for us to return. But this is a collage of images that were put together by NASA to show us the full rotation of the moon. We can see on this side that we see, the near side is pretty heavily cratered, and the opposite side is not as much, but a lot more Maria here. So more interesting for us to look at this side of the moon than it is on the other. And that's about it.
I'd like to be able to look at the other side. We should put a giant space mirror up there so we can like point at it and see the other side.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I wonder why they haven't put. I think maybe they're talking about it to put a telescope on the other side of the moon. I think they were discussing it, weren't they not? One time.
Could be.
Yeah.
That's where all the cities and stuff are. So
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
I have to go up and polish it.
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Probably why they don't have one there because they just want it left alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah. We see all the cities, like Mike says. Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. So there's a little bit of information, kind of useless probably, but who knows? Maybe.
Well, in extension to what you're talking about, apogee and perigee, and the reason you have total solar eclipses and partial solar or annular solar eclipses is that very reason.
Hmm.
So, because again, with when you're in perigee, you have the fuller size moon, and that's what it had to be. Correct? Perigee's
Well,
closer.
well, actually closer to us, so it has the opportunity to cover the complete disk of the sun.
Right,
Where
right. When it's
apogee,
further away, it's
yeah,
small enough. That percentage of the 14% is enough that it can't completely cover the sun. So
right,
therefore, you have that annular ring around the sun.
right, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And again, I mean, if a partial eclipse happens, it's because the moon is not completely aligned with the
right.
sun system, right?
Yeah,
So that's what we're getting next year. But still going to be a great show. It's going to happen at sunrise on March the 29th. You want to, I mean, you get lots of time now to start and go out and pick out your spot. Like there were
yeah.
so many people during the total eclipse that missed the total eclipse and say,
Because they
yeah,
were looking for a
yeah,
spot.
well,
Yeah,
well,
yeah, absolutely.
it's so what? It's only 2%. It made a big difference, that 2%.
Oh yeah.
We're trying to pick out, where do I go and stuff. So you've got months right now to take a look at Google Maps and PhotoPills, another program, find out where you exactly want to be for that time. If you want to be along the bay, it might be foggy. It's going to be March, so who knows what the weather's going to be March 29th, right? Although we said the same thing for April. Here we were at beautiful
Yeah,
skies.
yeah. And we were the only ones that pretty much on
And
that
the ones
whole
that's right.
month.
Yeah.
We were blessed
So,
with that
so
one.
we have two events happening together there, and they always come in twos, the lunar and solar. So we've got a full lunar eclipse coming up on the 14th of March. That's going to give a beautiful view of a nice big. That's going to be on a March. I don't know if March is a supermoon or not. I'm not sure, but it'll actually pass right through the thicker part of our shadow. So we'll have
Yeah.
all the sunrises and all the sunsets bathing the moon in that beautiful glow.
Well, the nice thing about the lunar eclipse is you get a lot more opportunity to play with it because it's a lot longer.
Yeah, a lot longer. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So,
And it's going to be overnight too. So take the
yeah,
next day off. Yep. And the solar eclipse will be happening about 80% obstructed as it rises. So it's going to kind of look like a set of horns coming up out of the water
yeah, it's going to be cool.
initially for a little bit, and then
Be
it'll
off like
turn
this,
this way and then leave out that way. So we'll have a couple hours of that happening too. So that should be awesome to see again. Okay. I'm going to go from there to who's next? Mr. Powell.
Mike is next.
Oh me. Oh me, oh my oh. Alrighty. I'm just gonna have a couple of quick little interesting items about the moon. And they are interesting. And you can look at it with binoculars, as you can see in my hand, or a telescope, whatever you like to use. It's always good. The moon never gets old. You're always finding something new every time. So it's a very interesting object to look at, obviously. You can see lunar mare, which are the seas. You can see impact craters, and you can see mountain ranges and so on. But if you were just to say, okay, I'm going to look at the moon and I want to look at some cool stuff right off the bat, there's four big craters that you can pick right off the bat and look at. You pretty much see them anytime. One of them is Plato up here at the top, then Copernicus down here. You got Tycho at the bottom, which Tycho just spreads everything on everywhere. You can see it. And then there's one up here. It's got a little mountain right in the dead center of it. I can't even pronounce that. Biliadus, something like that. Biliadus. But anyway, those four craters are the coolest thing. And then, of course, during a certain time, you got the crooked snowman, as they call it. Now, where else can you look at a crooked snowman but our moon, right? Other than out in your front lawn. But there's also some other cool stuff that happens, and we talked about the phases and things like that. And during certain phases, you can see some really cool things. Like you can see a lunar V. You can see the lunar X, which, everybody posts, okay, we're going to have the lunar X coming up. And you can have the lunar L, which you can see down here, perfect L. And I thought, well, that's cool. But what else? There's got to be more out there. Well, guess what? There actually is. If you can find the lunar V and X and L, then you look a little harder. You'll find out there's also a lunar O, because I suppose any crater could act as the letter O. And there's a lunar E, where you get two craters together and it shapes an E or a W. So then you start putting words together. Well, you can spell the word love on the moon some night, or you can spell the lunar ox, or you could have not the lunar mole, but the lunar vole. So using your imagination, there's lots of things you can look at up there and go, oh, that's cool. You know, they can make out different things. And just to say that, we were at a star party once and we came across something, the lunar cat.
Yes.
Now, believe it or not, there's the two eyes, big ears, comes down. There's that tail that swings back and forth, just like in the GIF there. And you got yourself a lunar cat. And it stood out amazing, didn't it, Paul? Like it was an incredible view to look at.
Yeah, that
Hard
was.
part, the hard part was later trying to find the darn thing.
Yeah.
Well, we could tell the time.
Exactly. So I did a little research and got looking hard and say, where do I find this thing? Guess what? If you can look up and see the Apennine mountain range right here, excuse me, just come down, spot this big crater, and right below it, upside down, there's the lunar cat. Right?
Yes.
There. That's pretty cool. You got a lunar cat on the moon. So use your imagination, get out there with your scopes and binoculars, day or night, and enjoy the moon. That's it.
It's fantastic.
Awesome.
I remember we saw that cat, or at least what we deemed as the cat.
Hmm.
And that was quite something else.
It was, yeah.
That was a fun day.
I don't know if we were just having too many cookies that night or what.
Well, maybe we get into catnip. I don't know,
Can't have too many cookies anyway, man.
It stood right out. Then we had a little discussion. Is it an owl?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like that cat clock, you know. And,
Yeah.
and it was like, what are you talking about, cat clock?
Yeah.
But once you see it and find it, you
Yeah.
can't unsee it.
Can't unsee
Yeah.
it. It's like the
It's a
dinosaur.
feature. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Some good targets here to get out and play around with. Okay, we're going to go to Mr. Paul now. He's going to talk a little bit about something different about shooting the moon, but
Yeah.
his
I
own.
was going to do a thing on taking pictures of the moon and all that technical stuff, but realistically, it's summertime and we should be just enjoying it as much as we can. So I thought I would just kind of do a little barrage of some photos that I did and how I got them, some of them. It'll be quick. I'll go through it fast. But before I do that, I will go through a couple of things that you can do so that you can get out there and start doing this. And this is something anybody can do. There's not too many things here that I'll mention that you even need a telescope for. So let's look at the first one. Let's go to the best time to shoot the moon. We'll do that one first. I'll get that to open. And then I'll share it once it's open. There it is. And how do I make that big? I always forget on this. Slideshow. And start first slide. Oh, it goes over there. Uh-oh. Yeah. I can't see anything again, so I have to escape. Nothing like that ever works for me. I'm going to do this. I'm just going to share my screen and we'll take it right from over there. Okay, and I'll share. Okay, see my screen now?
Yes, we do.
Okay, good. So the best time to shoot the full moon in one shot. And what I mean by this is a lot of times we go out there and we take a picture of the moon and we either have this really bright disk with no information, just a big bright light staring at us because we want to get some detail on the ground, or vice versa. If I want to get detail on the moon, I got everything else so darn dark that all I see is the moon and I don't see anything else. So there is a very specific time of day, or evening rather, actually day or evening, that you can get both. So that's what this is all about. Best time to shoot full moon in one shot. So when it's too dark, it will not allow a bright enough foreground. So the moon will be overexposed if I try to get the foreground, or if I try to get the moon, I will see zero foreground. So when it's ideal and when it's bright enough, foreground can happen when the sun is setting and the moon is rising. Now, typically when we take a picture of the moon, it's usually a full moon when we're including it in something else, unless it's a special celestial event. But for the most part, what we can do most of our 29 days of the month when we're taking moon pictures, we're going to get that full moon at least once a month. So once we get that full moon up, we know that, as Chris pointed out earlier, When you see the full moon, the sun is on the opposite side. So as that sun starts to set, the moon starts to rise. So you've got that really cool time where the moon is still low enough in the horizon that there's lots of neat color on it. And at the same time, you still have lots of brightness to capture your foreground. So that's the best time to go out and capture a moonrise. And I won't get into this too deeply. Chris kind of showed it with his animation of the moon going around the earth. But this is the sun, this is the moon in its various phases. And basically, if the earth is pointing at the sun during the time that it is, and when the sun sets, this would be number 2, which would be our waxing crescent moon, and it goes right around to our full moon. So when we're at full moon, then basically the sun is setting in the west and the moon is rising in the east, and that's the best time to take that kind of a shot. Just for those people who need to know a little bit about blue hour and when all that happens, it's a really nice little graph here if you want to grab a screenshot of it. So as our sun sets, we have various levels of nighttime. So we have civil twilight, which is from the horizon 6% down. As that gets a little lower, then we go into our nautical twilight. We go into our astronomical twilight at 18 degrees, and then from that point until the morning, we are in basically astronomical dark. So depending on the time of the year, that time span will go up and down. But from where we are, typically, those are the time frames to work with. So from time frame to time frame until you go totally dark, it's usually about 15 minutes in between each one, somewhere's thereabouts. So anyway, so that's just a little shorty on that stuff. Now let me just see if I can go into another one I want to show you. And here it is here. For those people who have cell phones and they want to take pictures of the moon, we'll call this the phony moon. How to capture the moon with your camera phone. So it's really quite simple. There are many ways to capture the moon on your camera phone. You can use a tripod mount for wide angle astroscapes. In other words, you just grab a little tripod and you can get these cell phone mounts, and you just pop it on the tripod and you can turn your phone sideways. Then you get that nice 16:9 format. You can handhold it for a full moon, so you can zoom in and take your full moon shot. You got to be some steady if you want to try that, but you can do it for sure. And of course, there's afocal photography on your telescope, which means that you actually take and put your cell phone on a holder and it goes over the front of your eyepiece like this. So steady your camera phone. The Celestron NextYZ 3-axis holder is a smartphone adapter, and this thing works beautiful. Not only does it work on telescopes, it works on digiscoping. So if you have a spotting scope, if you're a birder and you don't have a telescope, you can use it on that. You can use it on binoculars. And of course, you can also use it on a telescope over the eyepiece. And it does an absolutely wonderful job. Settings for the moon. I won't get into this too deep because each cell phone is a little different. And there is some variety in that sort of thing, but there are some pro settings on your cell phone that'll allow you to adjust ISO, aperture, shutter speed, all that stuff. If you get into that sort of thing, just download exposures for the moon, and they call it the Looney 11, which just means you're going to be on F11, and then you can decide how fast you want your shutter speed to be. What I will recommend is don't use too slow a shutter speed because you're concerned about ISO. Because if you go too slow, the moon moves very fast and you'll get a blurred image. So you got to make sure you keep that shutter speed up. So that's kind of just settings for the moon quickly for a cell phone and that sort of thing. Now let's get into some stuff you can do with the moon. Now, typically, when I first started imaging the moon, I wanted my pictures to look like this. I wanted that tack sharp, every crater I could see on the moon, and then it enticed me to start to learn a little bit more, because when you're looking at something like this, it entices you to learn more about what are those craters and what are those maria and what are all those cool features, and how does a crater form, all of that stuff. So this kind of photography, as impressive as it is to your friends because, oh, look how clear it is, it's actually an excellent way to go ahead and get into some investigations on what actually goes on the moon and all of that wonderful stuff. So that's one way you can look at the moon. And of course, to get a shot like that, typically you can use the digiscope. Like I just showed you just a second ago with your cell phone, you can get images that are very, very close to this with a digital cell phone. If you have a telescope or binoculars, all of that stuff, you can get these kind of shots with that with a little bit of practice. So I show that only because that's an interesting thing if you're interested in the moon and what it is all about. Now, what I really like, oh no, I want to show one more thing. I did take these up because I want to show this. I wanted to show this because for those who have a full frame camera and they want to take a picture of the moon, I wanted you to be, and depending on the kind of lens that you have, you kind of need to know what the scale of the size of the moon or sun, because they're both the same size as we see them, what they're going to look like on a sensor. So if you look at right here, this black area, this represents a full-size sensor on a camera with a full-size sensor. I'll show you the one with the C size in a second. And so if you only have a 100mm lens on there, you can see that you're not going to get a whole lot of the moon. You're going to get a little dot in the sky, really. The trouble with this is if you try to crop in to see the detail, you won't. Your image will fall apart way before you get any detail because you just don't have the resolution. So you step up to a 200mm lens, it's a little bit better, but you're still going to get rough edges and whatnot on it. Once you get to 300, 400, 500, then you can actually get a nice image. You can get some detail. These shots actually were images I took of the sun, and I can't blow this up on this screen, but there's actually sunspots on there. And as we start getting larger and larger images, like our longer focal lengths, 400mm, 500, so on, you can see all that glorious detail because, again, you have enough resolution. We're using enough pixels that we can actually crop in and still have lots of detail. So my recommendation to you, if you want to shoot the moon or the sun with a proper filter, that you make sure that you recognize what size lens you have versus your sensor, so you know exactly the kind of scale you're going to get for that. Now, let me just show you one other thing. If I can scooch out of that, with what will happen, let me just see. Yeah, perfect. And I'm going to go to this one. So for those who don't have a full frame camera and they've got the APS-C size, so here is actually the comparison for that. So in the black is basically the full frame, and in the blue is what you would see with the equivalency in a APS-C. APS-C, what I'm talking about, is a lot of cameras have a smaller sensor in them, and Nikon and Canon and everybody else, they make a full frame size and they make an APS-C. Some even do 4/3, but this is dealing with APS-C because it's a very common type of camera that's out there. So if I'm using a 330mm lens, that is a true APS-C lens, then that's the size it'll get, which would be the equivalent of a 500mm lens on a full-size camera. So I just want to show that. So if you do have an APS-C system, to get some really good resolution, you'll probably want to have at least 330mm or more to be able to get some decent images. When you get into telescope lengths, like a lot of people have these Schmidt-Cassegrain telescopes. They're a compact telescope, but they have a very long focal length. So 1,000mm, 2,000mm, that would be an SCT. 1,000mm would be a good size refractor telescope. So these are the size images that you would get on your camera sensor using these focal lengths of either the sun or the moon. And again, because both relative to us are the same size. So I want to show that. Now what I want to do is just kind of talk about a little bit what Chris was talking about earlier, about seeing something that looks really, really, really big on the horizon. So let me just show this picture. So in order to get a shot like this, which Chris was saying, well, why does the moon look so big and compared to that house? Well, when you look at the moon compared to that house, it looks giant, doesn't it? Well, there is a little bit of camera photography trickery, if you will, going on here. It's not really trickery, it's what we call forced perspective. And what this is this house was actually shot about a mile away. So the further away you can get away from something, the larger it will seem in comparison to the moon. So if you want to have one of those really cool shots where somebody's standing on the hill and it looks like they're holding up the moon, that's what you got to do. You got to get that person way, way, way away from the camera so that the scale from the subject you're shooting to the moon becomes more realistic. So just in the opposite of that, just to show you what I mean, where's it at? Do I have it on this slide? Yeah, right there. So here's the same idea. Now here, the house, or the barn in this case, is really, really close. And the moon is still the same distance away. No matter where we are on Earth, it's going to be pretty much the same distance unless we zoom in and zoom out. So if I was to zoom in on the moon, you wouldn't even see the house. So you can see how tiny the moon is versus this. And why is that? It's because I'm trying to shoot the moon with the subject matter too close to me, so I can't get that giant look like I can on this shot here. So that's all a matter of perspective. If I'm shooting up at Fort Howe, I can make the moon look relatively large over the city. But if I'm right downtown and I'm shooting in the moon, the buildings are going to look big, the moon's going to look small. So I just want to kind of show that perspective. And the only other thing I want to do through is just kind of go through some pictures really, really quickly. Here's some fun things you can do when taking pictures of the moon. At nighttime, when the moon is rising, it's got that absolutely orange glow. I didn't put that color in there. That's the color that the moon looks when it's really low to the horizon because of light refraction. But get it over some trees. It looks really pretty. It's kind of a cool shot. There's another one, same kind of a thing. If you can get that moon just popping up nicely, right nestled in between some trees, you'll get that golden glow on the branches. Absolutely wonderful shot. And here's another one. This is over at McLaren's Beach. The moon's rising. I caught the lighthouse with the light hitting just exactly at the same time, coming around as I was shooting the moon. It's reflected in the water. Again, this is not a technical shot. It's a landscape kind of, or nightscape, if you will, kind of a shot. Very simple to do. Anyone can do it. Go out and have some fun. Try to get that moon that's only a couple hours old. Here's this moon here. This was only, I can't remember, Mike or Chris, but this one looks like to be about 6 or 7 hours old. I could be wrong. I'm guessing. But in any event, these are fun to try to capture. So when they come out just after new moon. It's going to be the first portion of the moon. You're going to see the sun is setting, and this is almost right behind it. So they're a lot of fun to try to find. Go ahead and find some cool trees and get some artistic things happening with your moon photographs. Can be lots of fun, and they make great art. Here's another one showing you a very, very small scale of a moon coming up over horizon. Why? Because I'm using a wide angle lens instead of a telephoto lens to get that kind of a seascape, but at least you've got the, the moon in the water. Here we have the moon with some nice earth shine on it. We've got some bales of hay with some ground fog. Absolutely wonderful scene. Again, that is all partaking with the moon. A beautiful shot of the moon over and actually sitting in the belt of Venus, which is something we see at night. It's the most beautiful thing you'll ever see, the most beautiful color you ever see. And then so when you get that moon coming up at this time of year, it's absolutely wonderful, especially if you can catch it reflecting in a water. Play around with the moon and some clouds. Get some clouds in front of the moon. Don't wait for the moon to be clear because you're missing out on a lot of this cool stuff. Plus, it'll actually soften and bring the light, the luminous value of the moon down, so you can do a lot more with it with your camera. That's a lot of fun. Go ahead and do some daytime moon sets. Sometimes the moon will be setting in the morning when you're just getting up, and it's a very cool thing to see. It's a lot more muted in terms of its brightness, but you can get that sun actually starting to shine in the trees as the moon's slipping behind that mountain. So you can go ahead and do that kind of a thing. If you want to shoot something, this was actually shot with 150 millimeter Smith cast. So if you want to do those detailed moon shots, fill your boots. There's all kinds of detail on the moon surface that you can get and absolutely have a great time looking at. So, don't forget to do those shots. Some of your conjunctions, we've got the moon here, glorious earth shine with Venus over here, and the power lines are kind of telecommunicating, I don't know, but they're up in the sky, and it's an absolutely wonderful sight. And this particular part of the twilight night is probably the most beautiful sky color you will ever see. And of course, let's not forget about our lunar eclipse. It's one of the most glorious things you'll see. This is where you'll have the moon totally covered in the shadow of the earth, and you can see stars around it. And naked eye, this is one of the most glorious things you'll see. We've got one coming up. Sometimes some of your photos can be so nice and cool, they can end up in a magazine. So, by all means, submit your photos to magazines. You never know who will take them. Again, another shot down at McLaren's Beach, using the floor bed of the sea after the tide is out, because it's so reflective. It's one of the nicest times to shoot the moon coming up over the horizon. Don't forget to play with storm clouds around the moon. You got some earthshine, you got some cool clouds in there. You can have a ball with that kind of stuff. You can make the moon look like Jupiter, but just, you get the clouds over it. Sometimes that can happen for you. And of course, that's pretty, oh yeah, and play with some stuff off in the distance. This is over the west side, over the water tower. I was standing in the Sobeys parking lot, looking over towards the west side, and the moon was setting, and it was a very, very thin crescent with that beautiful earth shine. And I said, well, let's put it on top of the tower. There's no limit to this stuff. Or go out to the ocean, watch the moon rise from the ocean. Chris and Mike do it all the time, and they get to see stuff like this, and it's just indescribable unless you're seeing it with the naked eye. And this was over Partridge Island, that very same thing. Again, that same time of night where you've got enough light that you have a nice scape in the front and a beautiful moon rise. And if you're lucky, you'll get that cloud in front of it, and it makes for very beautiful photography. So that is what I wanted to show for some moon stuff. Oh, can I go back? Oh, I know what happened. Knock the camera over. Focus.
Focus.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what I wanted to show. I just, not only is the moon cool and technical and does all that stuff, but it's something that you can enjoy almost every day of the month, because the moon once it's up, it gives us different phases, and enjoy some of your scenery and take some beautiful shots and start to really embrace the moon. And there's lots of stories you can talk about and folklore, and anyway, it goes on. That's it. That's my story.
Gonna stick them with it.
And send your photos into astronomybythebay@gmail.com.
Yes.
That's yes, absolutely.
Yeah, great shots, Paul. Nice job.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for that. Okay. So that's our chat about the moon, and again, we've got our moon out right now. So well, maybe not tonight, maybe not the next couple of nights, because the rain's coming through, but we need some moon. Paul is known as Moon Man. There you go.
Just don't moon us, Paul.
Yeah. We'll keep that polite. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Let's go to the vinyl bud then maybe next.
Vinyl bud. Sure.
All great tips, Paul. Yeah.
So, binocular target of the week this week by Vinyl Bud is not the moon, believe it or not. I was thinking about it, but I said, no. It is the lozenge.
Oh!
Yes, the infamous lozenge. Everybody goes, huh? The what? Well, the asterism, the lozenge, marks the head of Draco the dragon. It lies at midway point on the line between Vega and Cohab, Beta Uranus Minoris. The lozenge asterism in Draco is an excellent target for naked eye and for binocular observers, so you can do it both. How do I find it in the sky? Well, basically, if this time of I figure if you go out around 11 o'clock when it's dark now, you oriented yourself 50 degrees east northeast and look almost straight up, you will find Hercules, the keystone, and just look from there towards Polaris, and guess what? Draco the head is right dead center between the two. So it's a pretty easy find. Again, this is what you're looking at, the 4 stars that make up, I suppose you'd call it an awkward keystone, like a mini version of the Hercules keystone. What does it look like? Well, this is a nice shot. The colors in these stars are amazing. You're not going to see that with the naked eye, but if you photograph it, these colors are really, really amazing. And that's what it kind of looks like, that offset trapezoid or something. Is that the shape, I guess you would call it?
Mm-hmm.
In 10 by 50 binoculars, be prepared. She's going to take up the whole view. It's a big, big target, and it's going to take the whole field of view across your screen to get it in. But once you see it, you'll know it's there. I always compare it to the full moon, but in this case, I'd have to say, it's going to be 100 full moons to fit inside that. So get out there, go up, find Hercules, head for Polaris, find Draco, the head is called the lozenge. So there you go. And here, are you ready for this one? I ordered 2,000 pounds of Chinese soup. It was wonton. And that's Binocular Target of the Week by Bino Bud.
Uh,
1 ton.
1 ton of soup.
absolutely
1 ton
terrible.
soup.
Absolutely terrible.
It could have been melons. 1 ton of melons.
That's good.
You just keep getting
They're
better,
called
right?
painful puns for a reason.
They just keep getting better. Yeah.
Getting better.
All right. How about a Rosanna's fun fact? Are we ready for that, Paul?
I think so. We'll
Okay.
try it. Let's see
We're
what
running
happens.
a little bit long tonight because we were a little bit late starting tonight. So
That's all right.
It's a weekend.
yeah, it's weekend.
Share screen. Share. Okay, and tonight's
Rosanna's Fun Fact.
Hey, welcome back, Rosanna, for another great and absolutely wonderful fun fact. So let's get right into it. So Rosanna writes, hi, Paul. This week, a fabulous photo of a crater in the Utopia Planitia on Mars popped up in my inbox. Now, let me just get the photo so I can actually see it. Talking about it, but I'm not showing it to you. There we go. This giant crater on Mars is eye-catching not only for its size, but its smoothness, a hint that water ice has played a role in its past. When the asteroid that carved out this crater made impact, it likely melted some ice, launching both rock and liquid water out and away. Now the crater stretches over 8 kilometers, roughly 5 miles wide. As ESA's ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter passed overhead, the spacecraft nearly failed to fit the entire feature inside of its field of view. Now let me just line up some things here so I'm on the right. There we go. So in my inbox also this week, the Planetary Society's Member Digest posed a question for their members to vote on. And that was, whoops, did I get my pictures all wrong here? Uh-oh. I don't think these are in the right order. Uh-oh. Fumble. Oh, I guess it is. No, that's not. Just one sec here. Just pardon me just for a second. There's something not working correctly here. And let me close out of that. And that's what it should look like. And for some reason, that's the slide that should be up right there. So how likely do you think it is that humans will land on Mars by 2035? And cold, unlikely, hot, likely. So your vote. So I guess you can go on there and vote on this, whether or not you think that that is a possibility. That's my vote, although that isn't exactly where I wanted to place it, but I let it go. Let go of the little interaction balloon too soon and couldn't get it back. So technology sometimes makes me go. So I think this is the next slide. No, it's not. Hang on. This is really mixed up. There we go. So if you want to go way back, you could say that the Mabhabarit, there we go, 400 BCE, was one of the first to see humans, King Rafti, depart the earth to some other far-off place. In this case, to meet the creator, Brahma, then returns to earth to find many ages have passed. This might better qualify for the first time travel story. So that was that one. Another really interesting example is the lesser known part of Dante's Divine Comedy, Heaven 1472. Dante travels to the moons of all the known at that time planets in our solar system and meets humans who have, in a sense, colonized those moons after death. That's interesting. But let's travel to a time closer to our moon. How about the Martian Chronicles 1951 by Ray Bradbury, which deals with humanity having to colonize Mars in a response to approaching atomic destruction of Earth. And I'm hoping that's the one. There it is. So actually, this sounds really familiar as a theme for many stories, TV shows, and movies. It also seems like the newest NASA plan. Actually, NASA has been heavy into seeking to colonize or inhabit the moon, Mars, and more since the 1970s. So take a look at these. So the interior of a toroidal colony, illustration by Rick Goodens, courtesy of NASA. Rick Gadice, I guess it is, a NASA-affiliated artist during the 1970s, generated visuals of what space accommodation might look like. So that's kind of cool. So people hanging out in their vernal space habitat, and I believe that's that one there. So there's, if you have a look around there, there's all the houses. Here's the, I'm not sure what that is, but this was his version or visualization of what that might look like. And this one of a double cylinder space colony right here. So there's two colonies coexisting out in space. Very, very cool. The desire and excitement to explore and live in space and possibly on another planet has not diminished, although the discussion swells and wanes in the news. But in case you have been waiting on that luxury space hotel we talked about a long time ago, the one being created by Orion Span and called Aurora Station, the one that we had a price tag of $9.2 million per guest for a 12-day stay, it seems the company ceased operation in 2022. Or has it? There we go. So I found an update article on January 20th, 2024, stating that the price has gone up to $9.5 million. It has a link to help you book your place on the waiting list for a stay in a future Aurora luxury space capsule. It costs $80,000 to hold your spot, and apparently the list is growing. So I think I'll wait and read the reviews on Expedia. I don't know about the Aurora Station. Expedia only gives it a 6.4 rating and says it's getting to be challenging. And that's this week's
Rosanna's Fun Fact.
Hey, there you go. So who's got the cash? Who's going?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's all about the cash. It's all about the cash and how we get there. Yeah.
Who's got that kind of money? Even filthy rich people, do they have that kind of money?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's all fake news.
Filthy rich do, yeah.
A piece of plastic, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, yeah. I don't know if, it's hard to say what we'll see in our lifetimes. I do think there's going to be space tourism. I mean, there is already, right? There's, we've sent people to the ISS for long stays. We are talking a lot about space hotels right now.
Yeah.
I think it'll be happening in the next 10 years or so. We'll have somebody up there.
Well, I mean, how many people are on the space station at one time?
8, usually about, 6 to 8.
So there's not really a lot that you have to police, but if you started putting multiple space stations or, heaven forbid we end up living on the moon or, up there, and there's a lot of people, then we got to have some kind of police force up there, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
It is. Guess I ain't going to space dances. Well, yeah, just me ashes, maybe. That's about it. Yeah, man. Interesting stuff. Oh, yeah. It's going to be exciting for the next generation for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I mean, the whole idea is to make us a 2-planet species, because if there is a rock out there with our name on it, the human race
there
will
is.
survive, right?
Well, meatback.
Oh, there is. Yeah, that's right. Meatback. That's right. Apophis, no. Meatback,
We
yes.
shall live on.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Where are we going from there? Thank you,
Pictures.
Rosanna. Pictures next. That's right. Okay, hang on. Talk amongst yourselves. Right here, I think. Okay, and I just gotta get my notes up, and I think that's here somewhere.
It is a nice time of year too to do some traveling. So, like Chris mentioned earlier, Photo Pills is a really, really great app. So if there is a spot that you like to see each time of the year and you want to know what's coming up, You can see sunrise, sunset, moonrise, moonset over any portion of any parts of land that you want. So it's a great app. You should explore it. Go on YouTube, have a look at it, and just watch how it's used. It's really not that difficult. I think it's $12.99 for the app, but once you have it, if you're a photographer, it's worth its weight in gold. We had Brad Perry on; he uses it all the time. We've had a number of guests on. I think Alan Dyer, he uses it,
Yep.
and any photographer that I know that's doing Milky Way
Yep.
and all that stuff, they love it. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yep. Okay. Few photos. What do we got? We got this one up here. This is from last night, actually. I did make the statement that we could see the Starlinks last night for some reason. And
Oh, yes.
well, for some reason, I mean, we know the reason, but it wasn't really announced. And I had checked the app later on. Find Starlink, it's called findstarlink.com. You can go there, punch in your city, and it'll tell you the next number of times that it's going to pass over your head. Well, when I went in and looked at last night, it didn't show me much, but this was the view last evening. So you can see them all here in a row, all lined up, which is kind of how it appeared right around, I think it was right around midnight for us, wasn't it, Mike?
Yeah, and it was neat they look close together, but the closer they got to over our head, they were spreading out.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, pretty neat.
This is a shot that Sharon Wilder got. They were pretty close there. And there's another one from Tracy Savoy. I did get a video here too. I don't know if I can share it or not. I don't think I can. But anyway, we did. It's always,
Yeah.
we all know the result of these, but it was just kind of interesting to see them again, I guess. So there's another nice chain there, Deanna. And I'm gonna go from there to a few other shots. Here's some shots from Robert Gadet. Robert had the M101, the Pinwheel Galaxy, 200 distance. He said, 10-second frames taken, approximately 56 minutes total exposure time, processed in serial and Photoshop. This was taken with a C-Star S50 on May the 25th.
There you go.
Nicely done.
There you go.
There you go. And some other results from the C-Star as well. And this is Mike's, yeah, M40.
Somebody finally shot M40.
There it is. That mystery constellation or mystery Messier object. Which is nice M13. And there's M57, of course, the Ring Nebula. And that's the Owl, I believe.
Yep.
57, yeah, the Owl Nebula. Yeah.
Ooh, we're known.
Yeah, and
It's Butterfly Galaxy.
Butterfly Nebula.
Yeah.
These are all captured with his S50 C-Star. Oh, nice job, Robert. Kathy Adams had a nice bright and orange moon there. Nav to pick just before sunset. She said, beautiful blue sky, some clouds, and this moon. Nice capture, Kathy.
There you go.
There you go. Mr. Powell captured this one last night. That was our view last evening.
Yeah, somebody put a sign in the way.
Yeah. Well, that sign was pretty lit up by there's a location up on Manawaganus Road now that has chosen to lit up its complete front of it.
No.
Oh yeah, it's bad. So we were standing there without the moon up and we cast a long shadow behind us coming from the north. So anyway, it's unfortunate. It's something new that we've just seen, but it's like a strip mall all completely lit up now. But anyway, can't deal with all of it, I guess. So
Yeah.
but anyway, it was fairly bright there last night, but it was nice.
Oh, nice starry view there, though. Right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful view. I think right in here, there's those are the stars of Antares.
Scorpius?
Scorpius, thank you. Yeah. Scorpius right in here. Down in here would have been Sagittarius last night, right around that time. So
Yeah.
they're getting a little higher now, and we're going to start getting some nice Milky Way views here shortly.
Yeah. Beautiful.
There's our moon last night, or the island, Thumb Island, they call it.
Yep.
Like to capture there of that. So we did have some cloud, but it still made for a nice moonrise. Always nice moonrise.
No, it's
Beautiful.
Yep. And so a little bit about the not so great parade of planets coming up this week coming. So this is the 26th. So the end of the month will be Friday. Yeah, 5 days away. So this is next weekend, I guess, or late this week into next weekend and into the following part of the week. There is a quote planet parade that they're talking a lot about in media. I've seen quite a few posts about it now. There was an app that actually shared it, and a lot of the news sites picked up on that app and they started posting it out there. So there's a lot of hype over it, but I think it's undeserved hype, really, from in my opinion. But because some people are saying, well, you can see Uranus naked eye. Well, no, I don't know if you can. If you know exactly where to look for it, you might know with some star charts. But so anyway, what you're going to see is you're going to have Mars will be visible. It'll be dim, and Saturn will be visible, but also dim. Neptune will sit in this area between the Moon and Saturn. Uranus is down between Mercury and Mars, and Jupiter below that again. So Jupiter just passed Superior conjunction last week. So it's not very far from the sun. Mercury is not very far from the sun at any time, but it's not very far for sure right now. So with a pair of binoculars, you might get Jupiter and Mercury, but you've got the competing sun there. Even at 5:15 in the morning, you've got the sun pretty
Oh, it's
bright.
coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're gonna lose a lot of this right off the bat. So it's not to say that they won't be in that line in the morning sky, but it's not a fantastic planet parade as the ones that we had remembered in the past, right? So
Mhm.
so just be aware of that. If you do get out and take a look, I mean, I'm not going to say don't go out for sure. If you get an opportunity to see anything, even that waning crescent moon is going to be pretty as it changes its view all the way down to the horizon here over that period of the week there. So you'll hear a lot about it in the media probably. Just consider the fact that you're going to be able to see probably Saturn, Mars, and the moon if you have a pair of binoculars, maybe possibly Mercury. But other than that, it's not as great as they had talked about, in my opinion, anyway. But I have been known to be wrong. So prove me wrong. Get a picture. Get it. Prove me wrong. Oh, and here's a little capture of last night. Can't get any sound on that though. Well, did I get the sound turned off? Maybe you do. No, it's up, but it's not playing.
It's up, yeah.
Anyway, that was just the view last night. There it is.
There it is. There's the sound.
Always kind of nice to pick up something like that when you're about to call the end of the evening, which is where we were. This is about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. But it's kind of magical sitting there watching the moon, listening to the waves crashing, light coming in. So it does add a nice effect. So I captured 2 or 3 of these kind of videos.
That's pretty peaceful.
Well, it was a nice evening.
Yeah, it does make for some awesome viewing when you're looking around at the stars and you're listening to this at the same time. Anyway.
Nice one.
Serenity now.
Yeah,
Thanks, coffee round.
yeah. Okay. Let's go on from there. So calendar for May, June. This is one that our own Kurt Nason puts out for us. So here we are with our map for the month. We're into this week right now. Third quarter moon comes up on Thursday night. Mercury near Uranus, moon near Saturn on Friday. St. John Astronomy Club meets next Saturday night at 7 p.m. at the Brockwood Park Interpretive Center right beside the duck pond. It's open to everybody. All are welcome, and it runs about an hour and a half or so, meeting wise. You don't have to have any equipment, and you don't have to pay any membership to join. So just come on out and enjoy us. And next weekend, the following weekend, is actually the Kujipukak Star Party. That's happening already. Wow, yeah.
Starting soon, yeah.
June the 7th, Kujipukak Spring Starfest. So that's an event where members of the RASC, or Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, get together and they set up for a complete weekend at these national parks and provincial parks. This is a registered dark sky preserve. So we support their initiative for dark sky by going to these parks and providing views for the public through telescopes. So there'll be a number of telescopes set up there. Once you pay for your park pass and you get into the campground, and the rest of the event for you is free from our side of it. So we arrive Friday night, we leave Sunday. Friday night is an evening of observing. You can stay usually as late as you like. Saturday, it's usually solar observing, and then Saturday night we do a repeat of the Friday night event. So that's one of 4 events this season. So it already starts on June the 7th. So keep an eye out for that. I'll put a post up about that later on in the week. Remind people. And we get this from Lisa's Lookup, Astronomy More. Lisa puts out this great chart every month. Tells us all about what's going to be happening. throughout the month, the events that are coming up, the peak times to see them, and what you need for tools to see it, naked eye, binoculars, or a telescope. So you can follow Lisa at Ruby Moonbeams on Twitter, Mastodon, and Facebook.
Yay.
Hey, and that's our thing for tonight. So if you'd like to send in photos, please send them in to astronomybythebay@gmail.com, and we would be happy to share your images.
Happy, happy.
There you are.
Okay, let me see if I can get something else going here. I think we're almost at our closing time, are we not?
We are.
9:12.
1 second here. I've got to get this.
Oh, swell.
You're going to have to pause. Bear with me just for a second as I bring this up, and I try to get it to stop as soon as I can.
Looks like the skies are clearing here.
What's that?
It looks like the skies are clearing here.
Clearing, really?
Yeah.
Really?
cool.
I'll have to look outside. Oh, it's still blue. It's still clear out.
Yeah.
For
Oh,
daytime.
awesome. I thought it was supposed to rain tomorrow and
Oh,
Tuesday, but anyway, we'll see what happens. All right, so
Well,
then that's our show for this evening. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit about the summer planets, what we're expecting for planetary views coming up. Jupiter, Saturn, and those shows. Saturn is going to change its view this year. No,
There's
we'll save it. Huh? We'll save it. We'll save it for next week. There's a bit about Saturn that we want to know about, and next year is going to be a little bit different. So anyway, we'll talk about that next week. Planetary talks. So we hope you enjoyed the program here tonight. Special thanks, of course, goes out to Rosanna once again for fabulous fun facts. Thank you, Rosanna. Always a treat to have your you share your images and information on our program. And to all of you who share the program for us, thank you very much. Remember, too, we do love getting your photos. Send them in to astronomybythebay@gmail.com. And we'll be happy to put them up on our next broadcast. And for all of those who are watching us from Rogers tonight, thank you very much for your support. And so until next week, we wish you all clear skies. As we like to say, guys, open your eyes to view the skies and keep your scopes pointed up. See you all next week, everybody. Thank you.
night.
Good night.